Hi, welcome to class. We're the only two right now, but the other ones will show up eventually, right? I hate my life. I hate my life.
A Professor Sunreis Productions!
Hello class, Professor Sunreis here. In today's class, we're finally taking a look at a post-Duelist Nexus Dragon Link deck profile. I think I've done enough testing with the deck for now. The meta has somewhat shaped up to be, so I feel confident in my choices of my non-engine. It's not a big question mark what you're gonna play against, it's pretty obvious. And then the rest of the meta, while I haven't done enough testing against Synchron Piles, Infernoble, and stuff like that to feel confident in playing against them, like in a real-life tournament, I think I've got the theory down to what to use to beat them. If you even have to be as scared of them at all is a whole other question. In my opinion, not so much, but there's still definitely decks, especially in the beginning of the format, will be there for just people testing out. So without further ado, don't forget to pass on that subscribe button, leave some feedback down in the comment section below, and let's get right into the video. So before we go into the card by card, let's quickly go over the theory of what I had in mind when building this deck. In my opinion, the decks to beat right now, especially for Dragon Link, but also in general, is just Kashtira and Purely. Everything else is very manageable and won't be nearly as represented as those two decks. So luckily, these decks have a very similar niche in what cards are good against them. So it makes siding a lot easier and preparing for the meta way easier because you just put in the same cards against those two decks. Make it so that in general, in the very wide format with lots of different decks, you still have enough space to get everything. And while doing so, we still have to play around draw as hard as possible. Dragon Link, if you don't prepare for it, actually kind of dies to draw. But if we prepare for it by tuning down the engine which we are playing and trying not to go for those big boards and try to go back to seal control playstyle with heavy emphasis on Branded Beast and seal and not so much borrow and regained combos, we can play around draw way easier and also still trying to get our non-engine count as high as possible because these kind of boards with seal Branded Beast, they just get exponentially so much better if you have a non-engine to back it up. So I tried to all of my non-engine in the main deck to be as... First of all, I still want to have enough non-engine. We are currently at 42 with 10 non-engine slots compared to 9 non-engine slots at 43 at German Nationals. I think you can see the pattern where you just try to go down as low as you humanly can with the deck and fit in as much non-engine as possible to play around draw, and maybe not so much play into those big combos like I said, but go for the conservative routes with the Bystials. Speaking of the Bystials, we have 3 Lubellian, 3 Magnamid, 3 Sarnia. In theory, you wouldn't want the 3 Sarnia because you want to go as far down as possible in the combo and you don't expect your Ravine to resolve all too crazy. But at least it's still, in my opinion, the best way to enable a good engine if you don't get rolled. And of course, you won't always get rolled, so you can't over-prepare for it. Otherwise, your deck loses just way too much, similar to how I did in the Super Heavy Samurai format, where I cut the Ravine package completely, and oftentimes I just lacked the consistency and I lacked the power to finish off games. So I still think this ratio is correct, even if you want to go for a very minimalistic end board. And then only 1 Drewsworm, no Baldrake. I cite the Baldrake, but in the main deck, it doesn't come up often enough because it's only really alive going first, and then it's only 50% of the time, and then in those 50% cases, it comes up maybe every 10th game or something, so it's not really that necessary, and I'd rather have the spot for something else. And then regain and 1 Branded Beast, of course, standard, especially if you playing around draw. Having a Branded Beast in the main deck is, in my opinion, mandatory right now. In the last format, you could have argued about it and you didn't have to play it. I still always felt just way safer with it because I was scared about Nibiru, and my local meta is just plagued by Nibiru because everyone is playing Marines this day anyway, so I always stuck to it and I always loved it. Chaos package, 3 Chaos base, 3 Seyfried. In theory, these kind of die to draw a little more. We prepare with our Seyfried a little bit, but overall, these cards are kind of risky to play. They die more to draw than Black Metal does, but I still don't play Black Metal just because Black Metal does nothing just by itself apart from Seal Pass, and we don't really need to do that because we play so many Bystials already. We just need a normal summon and then have a Bystial or any extender whatsoever to go into Seal. And because this is all we are doing, the 1-card Seal isn't as attractive just because you get into Seal no matter what anyways, and then I'd rather play the really good starters, which are really good in multiples, in a sense that if you have Chaos Space plus Bystial Package, that's way better than Black Metal plus Bystial Package. If you have Seyfried plus Tracer, that's insane. You get it. So, because these are just better with how the engine itself functions, I think these are just, even though they die to draw a little harder than Black Metal, still better to play than Black Metal. and then only the baby dragons, of course, and the levy. These are insane. Thought about playing the Chaos Emperor, but I just wanted to save the space as much as possible because I really like it, and I think it could come up more this format because it is a very good card to add back of the Magnamid if you ever get rolled. But because we also play roll, and a lot of times we will roll the opponents in the opponent's turn, we sometimes just are forced to get something out of the graveyard back. So these really crazy search targets from Magnamid in the main deck just become less worth it this format. For the Rockets, 3 quick launch, 3 Tracer for consistency, so that we always have a normal summon. This card, like in the German Nationals format, is just also really, really insane, just normal summoning when going second. It is really good for a Tracer pitch to combo off and don't die to draw as hard on the Tracer, because then, on the Seyfert, because then Seyfert pitch Tracer, you search Weather Burster, you get rolled, you summon Weather Burster, you can make seal and just pass. It also really helps that the way the deck plays, if you want to plan around playing Droll, it's that you always go into Striker Dragon first, search Boot Sector, then you get rolled. If that's the case, the Tracer then is like a very good card in hand to extend into a Savage to get the most amount of tempo out of your hand if you get rolled, which is also really important. And a card like Black Metal just wouldn't help nearly as much in a situation where you get rolled compared to like a hard-drawn Rocket, which you otherwise wouldn't have. So I really like it. 1 Caliber, 1 Recharger, 1 Abs, all pretty standard. Also a nice benefit is that Abs becomes a really broken extender with this, so that's really cool. And then, of course, the field spells. Sometimes I do miss a Black Metal, and I would like to play 1 Black Metal, 1 Red Ass Darkness Metal Dragon, because sometimes you have those times, especially if you go for a tomb or something, where you already went through your Seyfert, you already have Rocket Engine, and then the Black Metal would be really, really insane. But those times you probably will be winning by just not playing the Black Metal as well. It would just feel very, very clean to have at that point, but I don't think it's necessary. So ultimately I decided to cut it and stay at 42 with 10 non-engine slots, which I think is really, really good. Speaking of that, of course we have 3 Droll, the tax of the format basically. 3 Book of Moon, it's insane going first, it's really good against Kashtira, it's really good against Purely, and then against any other random decks it at least trades 1 for 1, so this is always alive, the perfect card which I want in my main deck. Always alive, insane going first, really good against the 2 most played decks right now. I don't know exactly why I said no books will be played or less books will be played. There will probably, in the last video, there will probably be just as many books be played in the next format as is right now, but it's still, so the 3 Tracers makes even more sense because books will still be played, and going second, the Tracer will definitely help break those. And 3 Imperm. This card is super generic. It's not a monster hand trap, which I prefer because I don't want to play into a Talons, because a lot of people will probably be playing Talons just because it's so good against Droll. So Imperm really helps by not playing into Talons. Also, it's an Arise out, it's super generic. It hits together with Droll. We have 6 hand traps together with all of the other Bystials. We have then 7 more hand traps, so we have 13 hand traps against those combo decks like Synchron Pile, where Bystials definitely do something, so we have a somewhat good range of non-engine to beat those. So I really like the Imperms in the main deck. They just feel super strong. And then lastly, 1 Talents. That's mostly for side decking patterns. I think this is a very fine card to main deck right now, because it's a non-engine piece which does something against Droll. Just looking at the opponent's hand, ripping 1 is really good against Droll. I just wanted to have it somewhere, and I wanted to have 10 non-engine slots for math reasons. And then the talent just made sense to one of in the main deck. Extra deck is pretty standard. We have a Striker, we have a Romulus, we have 2 Seal, especially with Droll in the format, 2 Seal will come up even more than it did before. But even then, the 2nd Seal will always be the reason you won that game if it came up. So it's, in my opinion, the most high impactful card you can play for a flex spot. So it just makes sense in my opinion. Pisty, Borderland line, standard, Dark standard, and then we have Baron, Dissipator. These are standard in my opinion. Baron not so much, but still just comes up way too often. Savage, these are all standard, and a Tomb in my opinion, especially if you side more Bystials like I do. And then for the flex spots, I play 1 Chaos Angel. Because we play Tracer at 3, just the likelihood of having a level 4 and a level 6 is a little higher, so this just becomes the most broken Link 2 ever because it's a 3.5k beat stick. It's just the toolbox out random bodies, and it's a big body, and it has the upside of making your whole synchro basically towers when breaking boards, so I really like this card, especially against Purely. This is really good. 1 Scarlight. Runic is probably not so much represented in the next format, so going into time probably won't be as much of a problem, but because I play so many Rockets, I felt confident that this will probably come up a little more, especially going second, breaking boards. This card can be very good, so I wanted to play it. In a similar vein, the Quad Borrow, just because I play so many Rocket engines, pieces, might as well commit into it with the extra deck as well and play the extra deck bodies which want to have the most rockets available to you. An Nexus card would definitely be good to out Noirs, like at least to force it out so that our outs against the Noir actually are alive. But at that point, they probably use their Noir anyways to stop in theoretic Chaos Angel, because that also is kind of threatening to their board already. So I don't think that's necessary, and everything else just is kind of bad in my opinion. I don't think these are crazy good, and you rarely make them, but if they come up, and that's kind of nice. Now for the side deck, we have 3 Kurikara, and a Rysart out, a Noir out, just really overall solid card into a lot of boards. Not the most generic one, it's really mostly there against Kashira and Pioli. It does struggle a little bit against big combo boards, but it's still definitely fine. Then I play the Thrust package to save a lot of space in the side decking pattern, so we have 3 Thrusts, 1 Herald as an Rysart out or a Noir out, 1 Feather Duster so that we have something in trap decks, then 1 Daruma Cannon against Cash, 1 D-Barrier against Purely, and 1 Virus against random decks, or if you don't know what you're up, or if you already have one of them hard draw. Virus is just really good sometimes, but not all of the time. I think it won't be as crazy good next format, but it's also just a really good card against the trap mat deck, so I really wanted to have it. If we get rolled against them, we can use the Thrust to get into this. Then I play 2 more Bystial. Sadly, I cannot play the 3. There's no space reason, so just 1 Drewsworm, 1 Baldrake. Baldrake, like I said, comes in a few times when going first, and Drewsworm comes in going second against every deck where it's basically alive, because it's just so good into a sprite board. Just get it on the board, threaten something on the board, link it off, or lose it for Lubellion and remove a body in a way. Really, really good. And then lastly, 2 Dark Ruler for all of those random decks like Infernobles, Synchron Piles, which didn't go for the hand loop, for stuff like that. I really wanted to have a Dark Ruler, or if there are still some Live Twin variants or some for higher runic variants running around, having the Dark Ruler I thought would be a very good deal. And that's basically it with my deck profile. I think it's pretty standard of a Dragonlink deck. I think Dragonlink has been solved for quite some time now, and it's either if you go for this, if you plan to go for a more defensive, mid-rangey type approach, or you go for a full combo, play the black metal, and play less non-entered and go for the big combo approach. Right now, I think the control one is better. Last format, there maybe the combo one was better. Who knows? Still think these are the 2 ways to play it, and the deck basically then from there on builds itself. But I hope you guys still enjoyed this deck profile. I will definitely be playing more and hopefully uploading some more replay analysis. Now that the new format is starting, I just have more fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Again. The format has been a little, not stale, but I just played it a lot and I wasn't interested in playing a lot of online Yu-Gi-Oh! In my free time. I'd rather just stick to locals, and I don't have a recording setting there. If you are interested in seeing some of my local footage, definitely let me know. In theory, I could just take it with me. It's just a hassle, which I wasn't really paying attention to before. But if you're interested in me showcasing you guys some local footage, definitely let me know in the comment section down below, and I will get to that. And without further ado, class is dismissed. You guys are free to leave. Professor Sunreis out. Peace.